Has anyone betrayed you, made a decision that's impacted you in a negative way? Man, tune into today's broadcast. We're going to talk about how to deal with toxic relationships and how to be free in Jesus' name.
Welcome to Wisdom for Living with Greg Mohr. Join with Greg as he shares truth from the Word of God that will help you grow in wisdom and successfully navigate a balanced life with family, marriage, finances, and relationships. And now, here's Greg.
Well, welcome to today's broadcast of Wisdom for Living. My name is Greg Mohr, and we're in the middle of a powerful series, Building Healthy Relationships. How are the relationships going in your life? How about in your family? How about in the workplace? Is emotional drama following you around all over the place? Are you dealing with strife in your relationships? Man, stay tuned in to these broadcasts because we're helping you learn how to build healthy relationships in a positive way, in a powerful way through revelation and grace that will actually help you to become a model for other people on how to have good relationships. Well, I want to start today with a funny. This is called miscommunication. So Earl came home from the store on a shopping trip for his wife. And he told his wife, Sally, I'm such an idiot. I saw our neighbor, Mrs. Lundgren, at the store today. So I asked her how her husband was doing. I didn't know he died. Well, why was that such a problem, Earl? Sally asked her husband. Earl replied, because she said he's gone. I thought she meant he'd gone on a trip somewhere, so I asked her, why didn't you go with him? Oh, he said, I don't know if we're ever going to restore a relationship with her. I don't think I can recover from that, Sally. And Sally just shook her head and said, oh, Earl. Oh, the wrong question at the wrong time. So I want to begin today talking about the character traits of toxic relationships. In the last broadcast, I shared with you about the character traits of healthy kingdom relationships. Those character traits are loyalty, mercy, and truth. Not that you need to have all three of them going on in a relationship. Loyalty, mercy, and truth. People need study after study of every university that's ever studied or business have ever studied a relationship, and they'll tell you that the number one key to a trait of a healthy relationship that people are looking for is loyalty. And people are looking for mercy. They don't want to walk on your eggshells. They want to feel comfortable with you. Mercy is where we're willing to overlook people's minor faults and not make a major mountain out of it. But then truth. Truth is important. There's got to be accountability. There's got to be times where we can really speak into people's lives and not feel like that we can't be honest with them. But you just don't want to be brutally honest. If your wife asks how, this dress looks on her, just say, well, that's pretty, honey. You look fine. Don't be, there's no reason to try to, like the old Chinese proverb, try to remove a fly from your friend's forehead with a hatchet. And so, loyalty, mercy, and truth. And so those are really important traits to healthy kingdom relationships. But now there are several toxic traits or traits of toxic relationships. And so, we're going to begin to talk about that in today's broadcast. So, first of all, we need to be selective about our relationships. Proverbs 13:20 says, he who walks with wise men shall be wise. So who you hang out with as your inner circle of friends will affect your potential in life. You show me your inner circle of friends, and I'll show you your future. Billy Epperhart says like this: you can't fly with the eagles hanging around the turkeys. So 1 Corinthians 15:33 says, do not be deceived. And when the Bible says don't be deceived, there's a reason he's telling you that, because people are deceived. Evil company corrupts good morals. So my pastor, Bob Nichols, says it this way: poor people have poor ways. So many times the friends we choose tell us a lot about how we feel about ourselves. In an earlier broadcast, I talked about the different types of relationships that we all need. We need discipling relationships that we're pouring into, and we need peer relationships, and we need mentoring relationships. But if all of the relationships that you have are downline, they're basically you're pouring into people, or they're people that won't hold you accountable at all. You may be building those relationships for that reason, that they're not going to hold you accountable. And many times, sometimes people are ministering to others out of a need to be needed. And so those relationships aren't going to be healthy for you if that's all the relationships that you have, or downline, or people that are not going to hold you accountable. We need to be careful about the close friends, that we have, about being close friends with people who constantly whine or blame shift or complain or speak negative of those that are in authority. And we've got to be careful about having relationships like this, because that's not healthy. Proverbs 22:24 and 25 says, make no friendship with an angry man, and with a furious man do not go, lest you learn his ways and set a snare for your soul. In some of the future broadcasts, I'm going to talk about how to deal with anger in your own life, and how to deal with anger if you have a relationship with somebody who's angry. Typically, someone who's dealing with anger, pent-up anger, it's because there's been a violation, some boundary that's been crossed, some violation in the past that hasn't been dealt with justly. And so basically your anger is a form of revenge because of an injustice that wasn't remedied or wasn't dealt with right. And we're going to talk about those things in future broadcasts, how to deal with anger. 50% of learning involves learning what to avoid. I don't know about you, but I watch people. I watch relationships, and I observe people, and I observe healthy relationships. I observe unhealthy relationships, functional relationships, dysfunctional relationships, loving and peaceful relationships, and then those that are full of strife. And I learn from them. I learn what to avoid. I learn what to embrace. And if you have a low self-image, you're going to be tempted to only hang out with those who are part of what I call the Wounded Hearts Club, who will never hold you accountable for your words and actions. These type of relationships lead to teaming up with the blame-shifting society or the Victims Anonymous Club, who develop entitlement attitudes, and judgments against all authority in their lives. And, their parents are to blame, or, the government's to blame, or, their teachers to blame, or, society's to blame, or some race is to blame, or, something is to blame. And listen, we've got to grow up. And if it's all right to help a person and lift them up out of their situation, but relationships are a lot like sitting on ice. Okay, if you sit down on ice and it sticks to you, that's not a relationship that you want to be close with. But if you sit down on ice and it melts, in other words, you have influence in that relationship, then that relationship is okay. There's no wisdom in all this blame shifting, victim mentality, all of that. There's no wisdom in those kind of relationships. We need relationships that are centered around Jesus, who will encourage us and challenge us to take our place and accept responsibility to fulfill God's plan for our lives, no matter what other people do, no matter what, or whatever, however somebody's attempted to hinder your dream or your vision or try to stop you, or maybe you got fired from a job or something like that. Listen, nobody can stop you from your potential and what God has for you except you. The devil himself, he can't stop you. He's not bigger than God. Greater is he that's in you than he that's in the world. And we need to stop. We need to quit on quitting. We need to stop letting other people get in the way and use that as an excuse to quit. God's got a purpose for you, and people can hinder you a little bit, but that can't stop you. A number of years ago, I actually felt God had spoken to me about that he had a new assignment for me. And I'd been pastoring in this one church for 22 years at the time. I thought I would be there to this day. But God began to deal with me. He had a new assignment for me, and I was offered, and I prayed, and I felt like it was God, and in fact, I had a prophetic word that came from a prophet that get ready, God's got a new assignment for you, and so we didn't rush into anything. We just waited on God, and then this offer came for us to oversee this large African ministry. I was on the board of this ministry, and the president was planning to step down, and he wanted to hire somebody to replace him. I helped him to write all the job descriptions. Interview the people, and he called me about 6 months after the Lord dealt with me. He had a new assignment for me, and he said, Greg, I keep comparing all of these people that we've been interviewing, I keep comparing them with you. He said, would you consider overseeing this ministry? And we prayed about it, and we felt like it was the Lord. And then we went to our church and told him that, I would be transitioning, and we identified a son in the faith and that would take over the church. And so I took over this ministry and worked there and served there as a CEO with the president, helping him to transition. He was going to hand it over to me between 6 months and a year period of time, and I was still able to pastor my church because the office of this ministry was in the same town. And so after 9 months, the ministry had grown. It had grown financially in a recessionary time. It had grown with numbers of partners. We'd put systems in place. Things had improved. We just saw a lot of success. And so I finally decided it was time to transition. So I handed off the church to a son in the faith. He's still pastoring there today, doing very well. The church has really grown significantly. They have 2 services. Things are going really well. I handed it off to him. We had a big banquet. My pastor, Bob Nichols, was there. Andrew Womack and others sent video congratulations, and we had this huge banquet. And so then now I'm completely over now working for this ministry. And 7 weeks later, we went on a trip to Africa, took my wife with me, and we came back. And while we were there, we saw some changes that needed to be made. And when we came back, the president called me in and fired me. And we were close friends. Talking about friends, we were close friends. And he didn't give me a reason why he fired me. I think it was because we needed to make some changes. We recognized some things that were going on in the ministry that needed to be adjusted. We were sending all the money through one African bishop, and we were going to wanted to place a greater degree of accountability. This ministry was overseeing. We had 50 teams of people showing the Jesus film in 7 different African nations, and in some cases, when they were having these, they were claiming 2 million decisions for Christ a year, and in some cases, they were actually counting people twice that came to the same meeting and were responding twice, and they were counting them. And so, we needed to make some changes. But anyway, before I'm sure the African bishop got wind of that and got with the president. Anyway, I don't really know because they never told me. But he called me in and fired me. And I can't go back and take over my church now unless I'm like the guy that just fired me. And so now I'm in my 50s and I've got to, I have to make a change. I've got to, what do I do? I called Andrew Womack and he emailed me and said, "Oh, Greg," he said, "don't worry about it. This is just a sign of an insecure leader, jealous of someone doing a better job than him." He said, "You need to take it as a compliment." I said, "A compliment, man? I need a job." Anyway, so but I had opportunity. Here's the point I'm bringing up with that entire story, is I had the opportunity to get bitter. I had the opportunity to, go sue this ministry. There was all kinds of temptations at that time to blame that man. That's to stop me from my future. I had a wonderful position as a senior pastor of a growing, thriving church, and of 24 years, and I handed it over. And now I'm out in the cold, and I could have blamed him. I could have joined the Victims Anonymous Club. And listen, my brother and sister, this is the beginning of a toxic relationship. A toxic heart is when you're blaming other people for what they did to you. And it wasn't right. I don't think it was right at all what this guy did to me, but I just made the decision. I first of all got in prayer, went to my pastor, Bob Nichols, and he said, "Well, Greg, you just need to preach." I've preached myself out of a lot of different situations. He wanted me to preach for him. This happened on a Monday. I was talking to Pastor Nichols on a Tuesday, and he wanted me to preach on Wednesday night. I said, could you wait till Sunday night or next Wednesday night? I just need to kind of get my bearings and get my feet under me. And but what I determined was that, I'm going to get in prayer. I'm not going to look for a new job. I'm going to get my cares cast over on the Lord. And I'm going to deal with all the temptations to be angry at this man, to judge this man, I was as angry with the board who didn't stand up for me as I was with the man that fired me. But I found they never told me why, I got fired, I went in and I said, we're friends. I said, we've never had a cross word with one another. Why did you fire me? He said, well, it's just not a right fit. And I told him all the reasons why it was a good fit. But anyway, the bottom line is this. Have you ever had betrayal like that? Have you ever been dealt with unjustly, unfairly? If you don't navigate that correctly, what's going to happen is your heart's going to become toxic and cynical and bitter, and then you'll spew poison on other people. I just said, no, I'm not going to even look for a job or another position. I did ask Andrew if he had, Andrew Womack, if he knew a church that needed a pastor. And so we just prayed, got our cares over on the Lord, let God heal our hearts. And I made this decision. That man's decision cannot stop me from what God has for me. And I'm speaking to somebody today who's been in a similar situation. You've been dealt with unfairly. Somebody made a decision that either put you out on the street or just it moved you out of position of fulfilling what God put in your heart. That person can't stop you, my brother and sister. It's how you respond to that. And I just made the decision. I'm going to forgive him. I'm going to release that, whether I ever understand why they fired me. And I made God, you said you had a new assignment for me, and that is not going to stop me. That man's decision will not stop me from what God has for me. And it took about a month, getting the cares over on the Lord. You know how that is. You get in prayer and you try to shut the door on all that stuff, and it's like sticky fly paper. It's like you get it off one hand and it's on the other. But I just decided I am not going to let what somebody else decided, whether I agreed with it or not, stop me from what God had for me. And so, we prayed, we got our cares over on the Lord. I had people coming to me, wanted to go take this guy out, and I said, no, we're not going to do any of that. I'm not going to sue the ministry. Wouldn't that be wonderful? A pastor sues ministry. I just decided, God, you've got a plan for me, and I don't believe that this was the will of God, that this man fired me, but his decision cannot stop me from what you have for me. And do you know what? It was just 7 weeks later that I'm sitting in Andrew Womack's office, and he's offering me a position that opened the door for me, that's allowed me now that's given me opportunity to be here before you on gospeltruth.tv and other television stations that I'm on. It's just been supernatural, the favor that God has given me. And I would not be where I am today. I would not be fulfilling what God called me to do had I allowed myself to get stuck like Chuck in a time warp of pain, joining a Victims Anonymous club, blaming other people for why I'm not succeeding in life. And I know I'm talking to someone today because I didn't plan to tell you this entire story today, but somebody needed to hear this. You need to release those people that have hurt you, that have stopped you, that have betrayed you, because what it did for me when I forgave him and released him and made the decision, God, you've got something better for me. It opened the door for me to come into new relationships, to walk in a new door that God had for me. And God has yet new things for you. You don't have to let what someone else has done stop you from what God yet wants to do through you and bring you into other relationships. We just had to determine that God, you are faithful. God, and when it comes to relationships, my brother and sister, you have to forgive. You have to release those people that have hurt you. That cannot stop you. And I'm telling you, God has new open doors for you if you will let God forgive, if you will let God release forgiveness in and through you in the same way that Jesus, God through Jesus and his sacrifice forgave you and me. I'm prophesying to you today. God has new plans for you. If you'll let the past go and resign from the Victims Anonymous Club and then enter into your future, I'm telling you, man, your future is so bright, you have to squint to look at it. Tune in to tomorrow's broadcast of Wisdom for Living when it's Ministry Friday. God bless you. Have a wonderful day.
Today's teaching, Building Healthy Relationships, is available in a 10-disc CD or DVD album, or on a USB flash drive containing both audio and 4K video. Also, when you order Building Healthy Relationships in either CD, DVD, or USB, Pastor Greg will give you a free copy of his book, A Prosperous Soul. This powerful book contains biblical truths that will help you discover the key to a life of health and prosperity. Go to gregmohr.com and get your free copy of A Prosperous Soul when you order Building Healthy Relationships today.
I want to encourage you to go online to gregmohr.com and become a partner with Greg Mohr Ministries. If you've been blessed by this Wisdom for Living broadcast, then I encourage you to sow into our ministry to help us get this word out, to go on other television stations. You know, this program cost about $600 per program to produce. And so I encourage you to help us and invest in us and watch and see the fruit that's going to come to your account. And when you do, I'm going to send you a free copy, signed copy of my book, A Prosperous Soul, plus the series, the same title, A Prosperous Soul, USB, DVD, or CD. Check it out, gregmohr.com.
If you've been blessed by today's teaching, we would like you to consider partnering with Greg Mohr Ministries. Your partnership will help expand this broadcast around the world to give people the opportunity to grow in wisdom, Christ-likeness, and grace. Go to gregmohr.com and become a partner today. While visiting gregmohr.com, you will find all of Greg's books, CDs, and DVDs. You will also be able to access his blog, free teachings, and connect with him on social media. Visit us today at gregmohr.com. Remember, you can order resources or partner with our ministry at gregmohr.com or by writing to us at P.O. Box 7702, Woodland Park, Colorado 80863. We look forward to hearing from you today.